Hi, today we are going to speak about linguistics and applied linguistics, and we are going to see what is the difference between them. But first of all, let's see what linguistic is. Well, so linguistic it's it's science about language. It describes varieties of language and explains the knowledge that all speakers have of their language. Also, linguistics, it can be said that linguistics is a study of language in general. It comprises such topics like phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, and other aspects of language study. Also, linguistics studies structure, development, changes of particular language and its relationship to other languages. And in this slide you can see some fields of linguistics and there are many, and I decided to mention just some of them. For example, we have descriptive linguistics. It's closely related to comparative linguistics. They both describe languages and establish differences between languages. Also historical linguistics, which is analyzes changes of language through time, and geographical that is dedicated to analysis of differences between languages according to geographical region. Well, and the main part is applied linguistics, which is our subject. Well, and so we need to know what applied linguistics is. I can say that it's a a very broad discipline, and it describes the language and teaches how it's learned and used. Well, and since I have said that it's a very broad discipline, and we can say that it's applied to all aspects of language use, and it deals with mother, foreign, and second language acquisition, which is our interest as teachers. Well, applied linguistics and linguistics are intertwined between them, and they have a relationship with education, close relationship to education, because all knowledge that we have about language, which linguistics studies like morphology, syntax, semantics, and other structures, language structures, we need to know apply this knowledge in teaching. So here we have to use our applied linguistics. Well, and but first of all, let us see why linguistics is applied. So, what is the difference between linguistics and applied? Why we say that it's applied linguistics? So it can be used in many different subfields. In practical use in fields such as clinical linguistics, analysis, treatments of language disorders, practical for doctors. And language acquisition with its main interest, one of the main interests and emphasis of discipline of applied linguistics, how first language or native language is learned, and how the second or foreign language is learned. Well, and also it analyzes teaching and learning foreign languages, especially for development of foreign language teaching methods. Well, and next is educational linguistics, the use of mother language in school, how native language should be used and managed by teachers in schools. Also, another field that linguistics can be applied in lexicography, what it is. It's a theory and practice in organizing dictionaries. So it's how we can write dictionary. We need to follow some rules and methods and techniques for creating dictionaries. So lexicography is responsible for this part. Also, we have computational linguistics. It's a use of computers in language analysis and use. You know that when we use a computer, we use a certain kind of vocabulary. It's not usual vocabulary that we use in our daily life, but it's specific technical vocabulary. So this is field of computational linguistics, and it's closely related to machine translation. Well, it's a computerized translation, and if you have used already machine translation, so you could see that it still lacks techniques. It's still not very efficient, and sometimes machine translation, it's not authentic. It's quite different from original message. So so this field is still needs to be improved and to be worked with it. And then it's a language assessment. Also, it's within applied linguistics, and it's a science that designed to measure students' learning of languages, determine what students know, or how can we measure the level of acquisition of foreign language, and how we can say that this person is efficient in this or in that particular foreign language. And another field is forensic linguistics. It's application of linguistic knowledge, methods, and insights in jurislinguistic, used by experts in court, and used in evidences. For example, if a criminal, a person who is during his investigation, during a trial investigation, it needs to be established whether this person is guilty or not. So we can use analyze the way how this person speaks, especially over the telephone, or some conversation that can be heard and recorded and then analyzed and compare it to original speaker, and it can serve as a result to determine whether this person was the criminal or not. And next, it's data mining and language pedagogy. Also, it's a theory of development teaching methods. It's one of the very important aspects of applied linguistics. And next is psycholinguistics. It's a branch of linguistics that studies the psychological factors that enable humans to acquire, use, and comprehend and produce speech, and relationship between language and human behavior. Also, applied linguistics can be used in internet linguistics, especially in SMS, famous short message service, and establish some rules that can be used when writing these short messages. All of you might know that when we write messages using our cell phones, so we to save our time, we don't use a full word, complete word, but we use just its shortened version. For example, like word you, instead of writing the correct pronoun you, we can just write letter u. Well, so it's an example how internet linguistics can be is used. Another branch is social linguistics. It's study of links between language and society, and neurolinguistics. It describes application of linguistic theories to the classification and analysis of acquired disorders of language and speech of patients with brain damage. It's also closely related to psycholinguistics. Well, and next is language interpretation. Well, this is useful for people for deaf and dumb people, and it facilitates oral or sign language communication between users of different languages and people who simply cannot use voice but just symbols. So how the symbols can be interpreted by speakers of different native languages. And so let's continue. And also you can see that the applied linguistics, it's very broad disciplines, and also one of the fields are corpus linguistics. It's a study of language as expressed in samples, corpora, audio, word, text. Well, this is text analysis. It's especially used in discourse analysis, how to interpret the message in written message. Well, and language control and dialectology. It analyzes different dialects according to the geographic distribution and some changes that occurred in languages. Well, and language culture and pragmatics. Also, it's another field, very broad and very important in language learning, especially language and culture in pragmatics that are very closely related. And now it's need to be taken into consideration, especially in educational field, because when we learn a foreign language, we also need to teach our students some aspects of culture of target language. So we can summarize some briefly some main applications of linguistics. It's in education. and education and linguistics. We need to know all knowledge of language, and sociology, anthropology, and psychology. And I offer you a brief form of conclusion, differences between linguistics and applied linguistics, for you to have it clear. So linguistics, it's a science exclusively that studies exclusively languages, and it has some fields like phonetics. It's a pronunciation and sounds of language, phonology, and how sounds are organized in different languages, morphology. It's a structure of words and everything that's related to word formation, like suffixes, prefixes, roots, etc. And syntax, how sentences are formed, what is structure that we have to follow in writing sentences in foreign languages, and semantics, which is meaning of words. In pragmatics, we need to understand how we need to communicate in order to be understood correctly. So it's about linguistics. And applied linguistics, it's a very broad discipline, and we can say that it's a field, everything that is related to language is involved knowledge of applied linguistics. And it deals with both mother and foreign language, and also with second language acquisition. Well, and it also, domain of applied linguistics are approaches to language literacy, research, language teaching, and learning, and translation. And translation also we need to take into consideration this. Well, it's very briefly. Thank you very much.